All right, let's kick off this deep dive. Today we're heading to Scotland.
Ooh, Scotland.
I know, right? We've got this awesome newsletter.
Okay.
It's all about Scotland, and I thought, you know what? This is perfect for a deep dive.
Yeah, sounds fun.
So get ready for castles and locks, and maybe even a wee dram or two.
Well, I do love a good wee dram.
Yeah.
And what I really like about this newsletter is it goes beyond the usual tourist traps.
Hmm.
It highlights some really unique aspects of Scotland.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, for instance, it talks about Scotland's surprising wildlife and some really cool sustainability initiatives.
Okay, now you've got me intrigued, so let's get right into it. This newsletter suggests traveling to Scotland between November 1st and December 12th, or after Christmas if you're on a budget. Why is that?
Well, those periods are considered off-season, so you're more likely to find better deals on flights and accommodations.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What's probably colder, right?
Yeah, the weather will definitely be chillier,
Yeah.
especially if you're thinking about February.
Okay, good to know.
Mhm.
Now, this next one really surprised me. Reindeer in Scotland. I had no idea.
Right. It's not the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Scotland.
Definitely not.
But apparently, a herd of reindeer was introduced to the Cairngorms National Park back in 1952, and they've been thriving there ever since.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got reindeer in Scotland. What else?
It really shows you the diversity of Scotland's landscapes and the unexpected experiences you can have there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm already picturing a road trip through the Highlands.
Yeah.
Winding past those ancient castles, rugged coastlines, and maybe even spotting a reindeer along the way.
Ah, the Highlands.
Okay.
It's such a captivating landscape steeped in history and legend.
You know what I mean.
Every castle has a story to tell. Every valley echoes with folklore. It's more than just beautiful scenery, it's a journey through time.
I love that. And speaking of breathtaking sights, the newsletter mentions the Leonid meteor shower happening over Glasgow. Have you ever seen a meteor shower?
Oh, yeah, a few times. The Leonids are known for producing some of the fastest and brightest meteors you can imagine. Just picture it. You're under a clear night sky, and these streaks of light are blazing across the darkness. It's truly magical.
Stargazing in Scotland is officially on the bucket list, and we can't talk about Scotland without mentioning whiskey.
Oh, absolutely not. A trip to Scotland wouldn't be complete without experiencing its iconic drink.
So what should we know about Scotch whiskey?
Well, for starters, the Scotch whiskey experience in Edinburgh is a must-do.
I've heard of that.
It takes you through the history, the craftsmanship, and even the art of tasting this iconic drink.
Sounds like fun.
Did you know that there are 5 distinct whiskey regions in Scotland?
5.
Each one has its own unique flavor profile.
Wow, I had no idea.
Mm.
So much to learn.
It's a world of flavor waiting to be explored.
This newsletter is blowing my mind.
Mm.
And speaking of Edinburgh, they celebrate New Year's with something called Hogmanay.
Oh, Hogmanay, it's legendary.
It's a giant street party with a flaming procession.
It is, with deep roots that go back centuries. Wow, so cool.
Hogmanay actually originated from pagan celebrations of the winter solstice.
Really?
Yeah, it's fascinating how Scotland blends those ancient rituals with modern festivities.
You know what it's like? It really speaks to their vibrant cultural heritage.
Absolutely. It's a New Year's celebration unlike any other.
It seems like Scotland is just full of surprises. Reindeer, meteor showers, ancient fire festivals. What else does this newsletter have for us?
Well, how about this? The Glenmorangie Distillery.
Oh, I love Glenmorangie.
They've partnered with Heriot-Watt University and the Marine Conservation Society on a project to revive the native oyster population in the Dornoch Firth.
Wait, oysters and whiskey? What's the connection?
Well, 10 years ago, the Dornoch Firth oyster beds were basically extinct due to overfishing. Glenmorangie, being a responsible company, recognized the importance of a healthy ecosystem, so they decided to do something about it.
That's amazing. What exactly are they doing? So they're working with scientists, they've created this protected area where oysters can thrive, and they've placed hundreds of cages filled with young oysters on the seabed.
Are they seeing any results?
They are. The oyster population is making a comeback, slowly but surely. And that's great news for the whole ecosystem.
Wow, that's incredible. What a fantastic initiative. Now, before we move on, I have to ask about Inverness. The newsletter calls it the gateway to the Highlands. What makes it so special?
Well, Inverness is located at the northern end of the Great Glen.
Okay,
It's this dramatic valley that cuts right through the Highlands.
I see.
And Inverness itself is a really picturesque city. It has a vibrant cultural scene, some fascinating historical sites, and it's a great starting point for exploring Loch Ness and the surrounding areas.
Loch Ness, now we're talking. Okay, speaking of elusive creatures, the newsletter also mentions the Scottish wildcat.
Ah, yes, the Highland tiger.
I love that.
It's much smaller and more rugged than a house cat, with a thick striped coat and a distinctive M marking on its forehead.
Wow, it sounds beautiful.
Sadly, they're incredibly rare due to habitat loss and hybridization with domestic cats.
So spotting one in the wild would be like winning the lottery.
Pretty much. But even if you don't see a wildcat, the highlands are teeming with other wildlife.
Oh, that too.
You've got red deer, golden eagles, otters, seals. It's truly a nature lover's paradise.
I'm getting serious wanderlust just thinking about it. We've covered so much in this deep dive already. Reindeer whiskey oysters, meteor showers, elusive wildcats. What stands out to you as the most compelling aspect of Scotland so far?
For me, it's that unique blend of history, culture, and natural beauty, you know? Every corner of Scotland has a story to tell, a tradition to discover, a landscape to marvel at. It's truly captivating.
I completely agree. It's a country that speaks to the soul.
Mm.
But we haven't even touched on the food yet, and I am ready to dive in.
Oh, me too. Let's wrap up our Scottish adventure with a culinary journey through all those delicious flavors Scotland has to offer.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so we're back, and I'm really excited to dig into Hogmanay with you.
Yeah, me too. You mentioned it's more than just a New Year's Eve party.
Right. It's deeply rooted in Scottish culture. It's a celebration with some really fascinating traditions.
Okay, so tell me more. What kind of traditions are we talking about? The newsletter mentioned a flaming procession.
Oh, yeah, the torchlight procession. It's one of the highlights of Edinburgh's Hogmanay. Thousands of people carry torches through the streets, creating this river of fire that illuminates the entire city.
Whoa, that sounds incredible. I bet it's quite a sight to see.
It's spectacular, and it's not just the torchlight procession. There's live music, dancing fireworks, and even a dip in the freezing cold River Forth.
Wait, hold on. A dip in the freezing River Forth.
Yeah, for those brave enough to participate in the Looney Duke.
The Looney Duke, I love it. It sounds like Hogmanay is all about community and togetherness.
It is. It's a chance for people to come together, reflect on the past year, and welcome the new year with hope and optimism.
It's amazing how a celebration can connect people to their cultural heritage and to each other. You know, speaking of connections, we were talking earlier about the Glenmorangie distillery and their efforts to revive the oyster population. It's so inspiring to see a company committed to sustainability like
Oh, it
that.
really is. They're setting a great example for other businesses.
Absolutely. So you mentioned Glenmorangie is partnering with Heriot-Watt University and the Marine Conservation Society.
Yeah, they're approaching this project from both a scientific and a conservation perspective. It's a really well-rounded approach.
And the newsletter said they placed hundreds of cages filled with young oysters on the seabed. Are they actually seeing any results from that?
Oh, yeah, they are. The oyster population is slowly starting to rebound,
That's fantastic.
which is a really positive sign for the health of the entire Dornoch Firth ecosystem.
So it's working.
Yeah, it's a great reminder that we can make a difference when we work together.
Absolutely. Now, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier that's been on my mind, the Scottish wildcat. You mentioned it's incredibly rare, so what's being done to protect them?
Well, there are a number of organizations working to conserve this iconic species.
Like what?
They're focusing on things like habitat restoration, captive breeding programs, and public awareness campaigns to reduce hybridization with domestic cats.
Yeah, hybridization is a major threat, right? It can't be easy to distinguish a true wildcat from a hybrid.
You're right, it can be challenging. True wildcats have distinct markings, though.
Like what?
Well, they have a thick, bushy tail with black rings and a very prominent M marking on their forehead. But, you know, interbreeding has blurred the lines a bit.
It sounds like a lot of work is being done to ensure the survival of this species.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder of the delicate balance within ecosystems and the importance of conservation efforts. Okay, before we move on, I want to ask you about Inverness. What are some of the must-see attractions in and around the city?
Well, Inverness itself is a really charming city with a rich history. You could visit Inverness Castle.
Okay.
It offers stunning views of the city and the River Ness. Or you could wander through the Victorian Market. It's a covered shopping arcade with lots of unique shops and cafes.
Sounds lovely. And of course, we can't forget about Loch Ness. Are there any particular spots you'd recommend for trying to catch a glimpse of Nessie?
Well, Urquhart Castle is a popular spot.
I've heard of that.
It's a stunning ruin perched on a cliff overlooking the loch. It's said to be one of the best places for Nessie sightings.
Okay, Urquhart Castle is officially added to my itinerary. I can already picture myself standing on those ancient walls, gazing out at the loch, hoping to see a ripple in the water.
It's truly a magical place. It's full of history and mystery. And even if Nessie doesn't make an appearance, The beauty of the loch and the surrounding mountains is just breathtaking.
This deep dive is definitely going to result in a very long travel wish list. We've explored so much, from vibrant festivals to endangered wildlife, sustainable initiatives, and ancient castles. What stands out to you as the most compelling aspect of Scotland?
For me, it's that incredible blend of history, culture, and natural beauty. Every corner of Scotland has a story, a tradition, landscape that will leave you in awe.
I couldn't agree more. It's a country that speaks to the soul. But there's one crucial element we haven't explored yet: the food.
Oh, yes, the food. We can't forget about that.
I'm ready for a culinary journey through Scotland.
Me too. Let's wrap up our Scottish adventure with a deep dive into all the amazing flavors this country has to offer.
Welcome back to our final stop on this Scottish adventure. We've explored everything from the rugged Highlands to the vibrant city of Edinburgh.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But no exploration of Scotland would be complete without talking about the food.
You're absolutely right. Scottish cuisine is a true reflection of the country's history, its landscapes, and its people.
Okay, I'm ready to dig in. This newsletter has been teasing me with a recipe for Scottish mince and dough balls, which I've gathered is a classic mince and dumpling.
Oh, yes, mince and dumplings. It's the ultimate comfort food.
It sounds like it.
Just imagine tender minced beef simmered with onions, carrots, and rich gravy, all topped with fluffy dumplings. It's the perfect meal for a chilly Scottish evening.
It sounds absolutely delicious. And speaking of warming dishes, we have to talk about haggis. I've always been a bit curious about it, but also a little intimidated.
I get it. It's definitely a unique culinary experience.
So what is it exactly?
Haggis is traditionally made with sheep's offal oatmeal, onions, and spices, all cooked inside a sheep's stomach.
Okay, that's adventurous. How is it usually served?
It's often served with neeps and tatties, which are mashed turnips and potatoes, and a generous drizzle of whiskey sauce.
Whoa, that's a lot of flavors going on.
Yeah, the combination of textures and flavors is truly special.
It sounds like a true celebration of Scottish ingredients.
Yeah.
So for someone with a sweet tooth, what would you recommend?
Oh, you have to try Scottish shortbread. It's buttery and crumbly and just melts in your mouth. It's perfect with a cup of tea or coffee.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
And of course, there's always Cronition.
What's that?
It's a traditional dessert made with whipped cream raspberries, honey toasted oats, and a splash of whiskey.
Okay, you had me at whiskey.
It's the perfect ending to any Scottish meal.
Speaking of whiskey, we can't forget about the Scotch whiskey experience in Edinburgh.
Oh, absolutely. It's a must-do for any whiskey enthusiast.
What makes it so special?
Well, you'll learn all about the history, the production process, and the different nuances of Scotch whiskey. You'll get to sample a variety of whiskeys and even try your hand at blending your own.
Wow, that sounds like a truly immersive experience.
It really is. It's a reminder that Scotch whiskey is more than just a drink. It's an integral part of Scottish culture and heritage.
Well said. This deep dive has been incredible. We've gone from breathtaking landscapes and unique wildlife to vibrant festivals and now tantalizing cuisine. It feels like we've barely scratched the surface of all that Scotland has to offer.
And that's the beauty of it. Scotland is a country that begs to be explored. You could spend a lifetime discovering its hidden gems and unexpected delights.
So if you could choose just one thing to experience in Scotland, what would it be? Would it be a whiskey tasting in a cozy pub? Or maybe hiking through the Highlands in search of the elusive Scottish wildcat? Or how about being part of the Hogmanay celebrations, feeling the energy of that ancient tradition?
That's a tough one. But if I had to choose, I think it would be standing on the shores of Loch Ness, feeling the mist on my face, and letting the mystery of that place sink in. There's something so magical and captivating about that ancient landscape.
I love that. It's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful experiences are the ones that leave us with a sense of wonder and a desire to explore further. So to all our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to discover all that Scotland has to offer. Until next time, keep diving deep.